Good morning and welcome to this class on 6 directions of the spine. Let's start in a comfortable seated position and I'll join you in a minute. If you need to put a prop under your sitting bones so that your knees are lower than your hips or even with your hips, please go right ahead. You can sit in easy pose or half lotus or full lotus. Wriggle your buttocks flesh down. And do the unusual way for me. Stretch up tall. Relax your shoulders down. Lengthen the back of your neck. And close your eyes and go inside. Just notice how your body feels sitting here today. And we've been talking about spring. So think of your body like a flower. And from your sitting bones, you're reaching roots down into the earth. And then your spine stretches up like the stem of a flower. And then you can imagine opening the flower at the top of your head. I'm thinking of a very famous poem. I believe it's by Dylan Thomas. He says, the force that through the green fuse drives the flower. So he's talking about the pranic energy that runs up the stem and opens up the flower. In yogic philosophy, we've been working with the chakras, and we understand in yogic philosophy, something I'm going to share with you, that there is kundalini energy, life energy at the base of our spine. And as we practice yoga, this kundalini energy opens up each chakra as it rises. And when it comes to the crown chakra, and the crown chakra opens to the reality of the universe, it's like 1,000-petal lotus opening. So we are sitting here imagining the force through the green fuse driving the flower, connecting us to earth and heaven. And we're going to work with our spine today, which moves in 6 directions. I know I'm going to add one more metaphor. If you're a flower person, you can stay with the green fuse. In yoga, we see that in the center of our spine is a golden column of energy. And that one appeals to me even more. So you might want to imagine that golden column of energy running up your spine, whichever image is better for you. So we're pressing down and stretching up, creating as much space as we can in our spine. Let's bring our awareness to our sitting bones once again, feeling that base in the earth. And then breathing up the spine. Inhaling up, exhaling down. You can feel the breath waking up that golden energy or that green fuse, whichever you prefer. And let's add some arms, inhaling up and exhaling down. Maintaining as long a spine as you can. So our spine moves in 6 directions. And if we were in class, I'd ask you to tell me what they are, but since we're not, I'll have to tell you. The spine moves forward, like in a forward fold, and back, like in a back bend, and side to side. And the last one is a spinal twist. So we'll explore all those motions today. And let's just begin with a nice side stretch. Reaching over, keeping that principle of pressing the sitting bones down and lengthening the spine away. So even though you're over to the side, you don't want to collapse. Try to keep both sides of the body long as much as possible. And reach, you'll feel a lovely stretch on this side of your body. And our spine is supported by our muscles. So if you go to a chiropractor and he makes an adjustment, inhale back up. If you have weak muscles, your spine will go back to where it was very quickly. But if you strengthen the muscles, you can create the supporting structure for your spine to stay in alignment. Inhale up, reach out. Let's do a second set. That felt so good. Stretch up tall before you tip over, creating lots of length. And if you think of that green fuse or that golden column of energy in your spine, if there's a crimp, if it's twisted or knotted, the energy is not going to be able to flow. So we want to have our spine long and straight and flexible so that the energy can flow through it. Our life energy, our prana. And the last bit of intellectual information I will give you today, while you just take in what you've done so far, is that yogis measure age not by years, but by the flexibility of your spine. So when you twist, we're going to inhale tall and then rotate the body. So the spine has a structure. It's kind of like sandwiching. I'm still doing intellectual, sorry there. Sandwiching vertebra and discs. And the back of the vertebra have two little prongs on them. And so when you do a back bend or a twist, those prongs can inhibit the amount of flexibility you have. So on a twist, we want to lengthen our spine first so the prongs aren't cutting into the vertebra, but they're further apart so you have more flexibility. Inhale back to center, change legs. Putting the other leg on top if you're in easy pose or half lotus, or even if you're in full lotus. And then we'll switch the other way. So we're using our hands to lift our spine before we twist. And then we're using our hands to help us spin around. One more piece of intellectual information. I'd said that we have these sandwiches of vertebra, disc, vertebra, disc, vertebra, disc. And the vertebra is bone, and the disc is a spongy material like cartilage. And the discs only get hydrated. They have a liquid. They're only hydrated through exercise that squeezes and massages those discs. So that's another way to keep our spine young and flexible, getting those discs hydrated through exercise. So let's do a back bend, bringing the hands together behind you, squeezing the shoulder blades, pressing the chest forward and stretching up. Relaxing the neck, relaxing the shoulders, feeling the spine pressing forward behind your heart. And again, using the hands to help lift you a little bit so that you're not compressing your lower back. Breathing up and down the spine, that green fuse or that golden column of energy. And back to center. How fun is this? Yes? loving and massaging our spines. Let's stretch forward and inhale, lift the head and chest so you're stretching the front and back as much as you can before you lower down, compressing the front of the discs, letting the head go. And as you breathe into your back, see if you can stretch evenly through all parts of your back. Let's inhale back up. Let's shift legs again to create some balance here. And we'll do a second set. Bringing the hands to the floor, squeezing the shoulder blades. Press into the hands to help lift your chest. So we're pressing down with the sitting bones and up with the heart. Making sure there's no compression in your spine and your lower back particularly. Trying to arc and create as much length as possible. Obviously more in the front than in the back. We're not collapsing. So we're squeezing the discs in back, massaging them there. Then we'll inhale up and we'll tip forward with a straight spine for as long as we can. Inhale, lift the chest, lengthen, and exhale, surrender over, stretching out as far as you can. Breathing into the whole back of the body. And press into your hands and feel that energy translating into your sitting bones, reaching into the floor as you reach the top of your head towards the floor in the other direction. And we'll inhale back up. And let's just move our head and neck for a minute, just feeling the cervical spine. That's the top portion of your spine, and feeling the flexibility there, particularly after we did those morning stretches. And even if you just did that little routine every day, just stretching your spine in 6 directions. But usually in class, we do the head and neck stretches first. Notice how it felt having done the full body stretch, and then the head and neck. Stretching from ear to shoulder. And chin to chest, chin to sky. Doesn't that neck feel nice and loose and flexible? We talk about people who are stiff-necked or rigid. People with flexible spine in their neck can see many sides of a picture, can see in different directions. They're not so rigid. I hope you're enjoying this. And just take a moment again, reaching down through the sitting bones and up through the top of the head. And just feel the length of your spine, green fuse or the golden cord. And I love that green fuse into that flower or the golden cord into the 1,000-petaled lotus. And let's do our classic 6 directions of the spine, which is the table series. So coming over onto our hands and knees. Hands right below the shoulders and knees and feet hip width apart. Let's draw the belly in and stretch the spine long. And then we'll take a deep breath and begin to lift the tailbone, lift the head and chest. Feel the front of the body open as you contract the back. And then reverse that, tucking the chin, stretching the back as high as you can. Opening the front body and opening the back body. And think about all those little donut-shaped discs and how you're compressing the back of the disc here and squeezing the front of the disc here, hydrating those discs. You know how people get shorter when they get older, and part of that is because their discs become dehydrated and therefore they flatten, like a sponge that's full of water and a sponge that's dry. Maybe we should check our height before and after class sometime. See if we've lengthened any. You feel that sometimes, don't you? That you've walked out of class taller than you went in. Oh, it feels so good. Just focusing on the movement of the spine. And let's come back to a nice flat back, long spine. Keeping the knees and feet where they are. We'll walk around. Squeezing one side of the body. And here we're not just stretching the spine, we're also massaging the kidneys and adrenals. And then we're walking back the other way. So here we're hydrating the discs from side to side, squeezing one side of the disc and opening the other. So the sides that we squeeze, we're squeezing out any old fluid, and then we're letting fresh fluid come in and revitalize. Do one last one and then come back to center. Take a breath here, and once again, grounding through the hands and feet, drawing the belly in and lengthening from tailbone to top of head. And then we'll come into our spinal twist. Inhale up. Exhale, you can stay there, come onto your elbow or come all the way through. And this time we're going to slide our hand forward along the long side of our mat so that we're exaggerating that length of the spine. And then you can take that same foot and stretch it back. So we're doing a little bit of a twist and we're stretching the spine with the help of our arm and leg. Just rest here, breathing into the simple twist. Then we'll bring our leg back in, bring our hand back in. Inhale, stretch up and down. Notice how that feels, and we'll do the other side. Inhale up, and slide through. And then you can walk your hand or slide it forward and slide your foot back, looking under your arm. So it's a very gentle twist in this variation. We're lengthening our spine. Let's bring that leg in, bring the hand in. Inhale up, exhale down, and we'll press back into child. And let's slide forward into puppy dog, lifting the hips. reaching the chin and chest or forehead and chest to the floor. A little bit of a ski jump back here. Press into the palms and lift the tailbone. So opening the front of the body and contracting the back just a little. And then we'll come back into child, rounding in the opposite direction. Come back onto our hands and knees, and we'll just do a little rolling cat and dog, rounding up and pressing back. So there's a little bit of moving on the hands and knees, well, hands, and what I'm trying to say is usually the arms and legs don't move, but here we're rounding, coming forward a little bit, dropping the belly, lifting the tailbone, pressing back. So it's a little round into a cat shape, pressing back into a dog shape. So we're getting a little shoulder and hip movement happening along with the movement of our spine. Pointing the tailbone down, belly up, head down, dropping the belly, lifting the head and chest, rocking back. Rounding up and rounding back in the opposite direction. Again, having fun with our nice youthful spine, reversing the aging process, moving that energy up the green fuse, opening the 1,000-petal lotus at the top of our crown chakra. Maybe that's redundant. And our crown chakra. Having fun yet? I hope so. One more. Don't want to stop. But we'll stop here and either come back into child and hold it, or take a few breaths here. And when you're ready, coming up into a squat, if squats work for you. So we're going to do a few poses in squat today. If you're in child, you can just walk your hands around from side to side. If you're in squat, I'm going to bring one hand to the floor, the other hand to your knee. Press this elbow into the knee and spin the body, so it's a bit of a twist here, or reach that arm to the sky. So again, think about lengthening your spine before you twist it. Feel the tailbone pointing down and the head moving away from the tailbone. Let's come on back down. We'll change sides, one hand on the floor, one hand on your knee, bringing your elbow inside your knee and twisting. You can stay here or reach up. Lengthen your tailbone down and the top of your head away from your tailbone. Inhale back to center. Bring the hands to the floor and fold over the legs. So we'll meet in Uttanasana from whatever pose you've chosen. And you can bend your knees and let your chest rest on your thighs. Let your head hang. Deep breaths. And then very slowly inhale the legs towards straight. Exhale the head towards the knees. Making this as intense as you like, feeling the whole length of your spine stretching over your legs. One more breath here, inhaling the legs towards straight, the head towards the knees. Let's roll the hands up the legs and slowly straighten up. We'll take a moment in Tadasana, reaching down through the feet, stretching up through the top of the head. So people who are not practicing good posture, we've seen them all the time. There's people who slump, There's people who drop their bellies. There's all different kinds of, there's people who stand like that, with one hip out. But we want to stand in Tadasana whenever we're standing. Try to stand in Tadasana so we're creating that balance and we're lengthening the spine. We're not crimping that tube of energy. Anytime you're standing, think Tadasana. Remind yourself you have an opportunity to be doing yoga while you're waiting online for your COVID shot or whatever it is that you're doing. Take a couple more breaths, pressing down through the feet and up through the top of the head. And let's bring our hands to our heart, and we'll do some spinal movements here. Let's inhale. Bring the arms together up overhead in parallel or steeple, and then we'll bump the hips out just a little bit and stretch over the other way. And again, we're not going to collapse. We're lifting through both sides of the body, breathing into the length of your body, particularly the open side, and we're opening the spine on that side of the body, compressing the spine on the other side. Inhale back up, feel the difference, and then we'll bump over the other way. Lengthening the side of your body, opening your spine. Inhale back to center and float the arms down halfway. And we'll do a spinal twist. Come back to center, spinal twist. Back to center, bring your hands to your sacrum, squeezing the shoulder blades together, elbows together, lengthening the lower back as you inhale and stretch the spine. So again, always when you're moving the spine out of central alignment, you're trying not to collapse the part that's being compressed, but you're lengthening both parts, front and back, as much as possible. And slowly inhale up. And let's do one more forward fold, rolling down, taking your time, feeling one vertebra at a time as you roll down, noticing where the stretch is and how it shifts from one part of the body to the next. And then very slowly rolling back up. Again, focus on one vertebra at a time, stacking them one on top of the other. And coming back up into Tadasana. Feeling that green fuse and the flower opening. And we'll take a half salute into a lunge. So coming to the top of your mat, we'll start on the right leg. And the hands to the heart. Inhale. Feel that long spine, swan dive over, lengthening the spine and going from a back bend to a forward fold. Framing your feet and sending your right leg back into a lunge, lengthening here from heel to top of head. Feel that spine nice and long. You can put your back knee on the floor if you prefer, or keep it up. If you're keeping the knee up, put your back foot on the floor. And we'll come into a side angle here. And then to increase the stretch in the spine, we'll take that upraised hand down and swing it over the ear. And then we're pressing into the outside of the back foot, lengthening through the top of the head, not through the shoulder. Bring that shoulder down away from your ear. And feel that lovely stretch, dropping the hips a little if you can and spinning your rib cage towards the sky in a lovely side angle twist. And let's bring that hand back down, coming back into our lunge, lengthening the spine. Again, if you need to, you can put your knee on the floor, or maybe it's been on the floor the whole time. This time we're going to bring our hand or fist, opposite hand and foot on the floor. We're going to open the other way in a spinal twist. Again, you want to feel that stretch from heel to top of head, and then use your hand on the floor to help you spin your body. Let's bring that hand back down. And either coming back into table if your knee was on the floor, or back into downward facing dog. So this is a lovely pose to stretch the spine, the strength of the thighs pulling back, gravity, tractioning the body as well. So big, deep breaths along the spine, or you can be in table or child if you prefer. And we'll meet in forward fold. Enjoy that stretch over the legs. And then taking your time, one vertebra at a time, rounding up. And coming back to Tadasana. It's feeling so refreshed. I'm going to change direction. We'll start on the left leg. So finding Tadasana. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, open, long spine. Coming all the way over. And then sending your left leg back into a lunge. If you need to put your knee on the floor, go for that. Otherwise, we'll hang here for a breath, lengthening the spine, and then either knee on the floor or switch your foot onto the floor. Same hand and foot stay on the floor. The opposite arm opens into a lovely side angle. And then to increase the spinal awareness, lowering that arm and swinging it over your head. Reach from heel to top of head. Bring the shoulder blade down your back and gently spin your body towards the ceiling. Drop the hips a little. Let's bring that hand back onto the floor. If you're on your knee, you can stay where you are. If you're on your foot, switch back to being on your toes in a lunge position. Lengthening the spine, feeling that stretch. And then opposite hand and foot on the floor. We're going to open in the opposite direction, giving ourselves a little spinal twist. Feel your front knee pulling towards the midline for support. Let's bring that hand back down. If you're on your knee, you can stretch back into table or child. If you're in lunge, you can stretch back into downward facing dog. Particularly in child or down dog, you can feel the stretch in your back. In down dog, the spine is fairly straight, and it's the strength of those legs pulling back, the palms pressing into the earth. Lovely tractioning of the spine, creating lots of space. And we'll gently walk to the front of our mats, forward fold, stretch over. Bring the hands to the thighs and take your time. Feel each vertebra stacking one on top of the other. It is the last thing to come up. Back to Tadasana, feeling the length of our spine. Let's find tall mountain reaching up, supporting with your strong belly, muscles pulling in. Find your drishti, stretch up tall. And down. Let's do one more balancing pose. Let's go into stork, nice and easy, shifting our weight, picking up our heel, balancing with the toe on the floor, or picking that whole foot up. So we're pressing down and stretching up tall, which is what helps the balance. Feel yourself reaching into the earth with your foot, being pulled up by the top of your head, feeling like that flower, green fuse. And down. I changed my mind. We're going to do one more balancing pose. Let's shift our weight. Strong core. Find your drishti. And shake it out if you need to. We're going to do balancing T-pose. So starting at the back of your mat. Starting with Tadasana. So balancing T-pose is really just Tadasana with one leg out in front, only rotated 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to step forward. I'm picking my left leg, shifting the weight, creating length through the spine. And then if you can, tipping forward, reach out through your back heel once you come off the floor. You're pressing out through the heel and the top of the head. You can come over as far as you like with a straight spine. Good job. Do the other side. Find Tadasana. Step forward on the right leg, whichever leg you didn't do. Shift your weight. Strong core, reach out. You need to press out through the heel once you come off the floor. Good job. Shake it out. Whew. And let's come down onto our bellies. Take a few breaths in crocodile pose. Just breathing up and down the spine. And let's do some nice back bends. Let's bring the feet together. Bring the hands alongside your ears. Take a breath and lengthen the spine here. Pressing your pelvis into the floor to create some space in your lower back. And then slowly lengthen through the front of your spine. Sliding your hands forward to Sphinx. Pull the floor towards you. Bring the spine behind your heart forward and shine from your heart, creating a lovely opening in the front of your body. You can stay here, or if it will deepen the curve, you can lift your elbows. But if your shoulders rise up to your ears instead of deepening the curve, keep your elbows on the floor. You'll feel a little more compression in your back. Keep pointing your tailbone down towards your heels to release that and only come up as high as you can without feeling any pain or compression. Breathe and open. Just enjoy this lovely back bend. And we'll slowly come back down and relax the cheek the other way. And that felt really awesome. I'm just going to switch my directions. But that felt really awesome. So even just a simple Sphinx pose. Don't even have to do a fancy cobra or up dog. Let's do a second set of that, or choose cobra or up dog if that's better for you. Let's point the toes, tuck the tailbone to lengthen the lower back. Bring the head in line with the spine. Hands alongside the ears. Slowly lengthen up. Slide the elbows forward. Draw the shoulder blades down the back and shine from your heart. Again, you can stay right here, enjoying Sphinx, or pressing into your hands, lifting your chest, lifting your torso up off the floor a little bit more, but no shoulders. Keep those shoulders relaxed and down. Deep breaths, enjoying this opening of your spine. In a very gentle back bend, making sure there's no compression in your lower back. You'll feel contraction, but not compression. So you'll feel the muscles contracting, but no pain. Feels very regal. It's a lovely, lovely asana. And let's slowly come back down, turn the cheek the other way, heels out, release. If you need to, this will release the compression. Windshield wiper in your legs. And then come back, relax. And let's roll over onto our backs. We'll do one more back bend here. We'll do bridge pose. So feet close to your buttocks, hands by your sides. Take a moment again to feel the whole length of your spine on the floor. Need to relax your lower back into the mat. And then very gently begin to tip your tailbone. And to engage your legs. Taking as much time as you can, go really slowly, peeling one vertebra up at a time. So no rush here. Let's really take time to focus on each vertebra coming up off the mat. If you're coming up high, you may feel the weight shifting more towards your shoulders. You may need to reposition the length in the back of your neck, keeping your throat soft. And if you're up very high, you can bring your hands underneath you and wriggle your shoulders underneath you to lift your hips. And if you're really nice and high, you can even come up onto your toes and lift your hips even higher. Bring your hands underneath your buttocks and then come into a super high back bend here. And place your feet back down on the floor. Keep that length in the back of your neck and the softness in your throat. Deep breaths up and down the spine. Keep pressing into the floor and lifting your hips a little bit higher with each breath. And release your hands. And again, as slow as you can, roll your shoulders out and take all the time you can to feel one vertebra at a time, lengthening as it slowly rolls back down onto the floor. When you get all the way down, feel the whole length of your spine on the floor. Lovely stretch in your back. And bring your knees in and give yourself a hug. And just flatten your spine into the floor. And breathe. And we'll end with a spinal twist. So reaching the arms out, you can lower the knees down to one side. You can stay right here with the legs at right angles, or stretch your legs out and grab your big toes with your nearest hand and turn your head away from your knees. Feel your breath encouraging your body to twist and surrender into it. Let's roll back onto our backs. Give yourself another hug. Feel your spine lengthening, your tailbone reaching towards the floor. Roll back, relaxed on the mat. And then we'll reach the arms out and lower the knees the other way, stacking one knee on top of the other with the legs at right angles, or straightening your legs and grabbing your big toes with the nearest hand. Turn your head in the opposite direction. Surrender your weight into the twist. Slow, deep breaths up and down the spine. Surrender into the nourishing pose. Spinal twists are incredibly nourishing for your spine. And how often in our daily life do we get to do a spinal twist? So they're really important to practice. And bring your knees back to center. Give yourself another hug, flattening your back into the floor. Deep breaths up and down the spine. And when you're ready, come into Shavasana. And if you'd like to put a blanket or a block under your knees to help relax your spine down onto the floor, you could try that today or some other time. As you come into Shavasana, notice how your back comes closer to the floor in relaxation. You can stay here as long as you like. When you're ready, slowly begin to bring some movement back into your fingers and toes. Move and stretch in whatever way feels good to you. And then roll to one side. And make your way to a seated position. Take a moment to sit up tall. Feel your sitting bones down into the earth and your spine reaching to the heavens. Bring the hands together. Namaste.